right, good afternoon. We'll call to order the City of Murfreesboro Board of Zoning Appeals regular meeting for April 25th, 2018. The first item on our agenda is a consideration of the minutes from the February 28th meeting. Any changes necessary to those? Hearing none, we'll assume those will stand as written. Next, we'll move to new business, and the first section is variance request. The first variance request is application Z18014 by Eric Bixler, requesting a variance from the zoning ordinance requiring 40-foot front building setback to allow 30 feet, and this is for property located at 3050 Asbury Lane. Ms. Rush, if you'd review that application for us.
Yes, thank you. The applicant, Mr. Bixler, is asking for a 10-foot front setback variance in order to construct a single-family residence on a vacant lot located on Asbury Lane. It's a very irregular shaped lot. It's triangular, as you can see on the screen before you. It has a very deep setback due to the road. It also has a 100-foot wide TVA easement that kind of runs through the midpoint of the property. It also has a 30-foot wide sanitary sewer easement that runs along the south portion of the property. It's also in the floodplain with an AE flood zone mapped on the property. Due to these many impediments, it really only has a very small building envelope where one could build a structure on the property. And the site plan that was presented with the application shows kind of a triangular shaped house. So it's an interesting design, pretty much engulfing the entire building envelope area. The rest of the property is not buildable. Other properties in this neighborhood, as you can see across the street, are more regular shaped, much more usable land. They don't have all these easements located on it, so it is unique to the neighborhood as well. The applicant is not here today, but he is being represented by Mr. Roundtree of Huddleston Steel, who's here to answer any questions on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this point? Mr. Roundtree, anything you'd like to add? Okay. This time we'll conduct a public hearing. Anyone present wishing to speak for or against this item, if you would come forward and give us your name and address and provide us with any comments you may have. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for further discussion or a motion.
I would say, I mean, I've been on this board for a while, but if this doesn't, if you could define something that would be applicable for this board to approve, I'd say this is one of them, so I'll make a motion that we do so.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none. So that application has been approved. Our next variance request is application Z18015 by the City of Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation Department. They're requesting a variance from the zoning ordinance which prohibits lighting fixtures from exceeding 20 feet in height in non-residential developments with structures 35 feet or less in height. This is for property located at 2105 Blackman Road, which is zoned park. Ms. Rush, if you'd review that for us.
Thank you. Yes, the City of Murfreesboro, the Parks and Recreation Department, is intending to construct new baseball fields at the new Blackman Park. As you know, sports field lighting are very tall structures, and this is a quirk in our zoning ordinance, but we do have a height limit on fixtures of 20 feet where there's no structures that are taller than 35 feet. And so this is something that we may be fixing in the near future. But for sport field lights, they are always much taller. In this case, the lights would be ranging from 70 to 80 feet in height. There is one located at each of the intersections of the baseball field. As you can see on the screen, those fixtures I encircled in black, so you can see where they would be located. The fixtures, I said, are going to be 70 to 60 feet in height. This would be a variance then of 60 feet. The city has processed variances for the lights at the sportsplex for the baseball fields out there, the tennis courts, as well as the soccer fields at Siegel. So this is something that we've consistently done historically for these types of facilities. The foot candle photometric plan was prepared. A new version was presented on the DS before the board today. We wanted to ensure that the foot candle does not exceed the city standard of a half candle at the property line. And so the numbers are quite small, but in no areas around the property line does it exceed the half-foot candle, so it is going to be in compliance with the city standard. This particular light is an LED light where they have a lot of ability to control. All of these lights will be hooded and shielded so that they will only shine directly down onto the fields, and they will not be directing any light off-site at all. Mr. Nate Williams, the Assistant Director from the Parks and Rec Department, is here and can answer any additional questions that if the board wishes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this point?
I guess just as a question related to the lighting restrictions, you were saying, I think, where the building height is less than 35 feet, it's a 20-foot height typical allowable for lighting, correct?
Correct.
So if, and this, it looks like the location of the fields will be further away from any kind of residential area. It looks like it's more closely akin to commercial highway districts anyways. What would be the maximum allowable height of lighting in a commercial district?
I believe it's 30 feet. It may be 35, but I know it was 30 feet.
Okay.
So it's still significantly less.
Okay.
Yeah. The fixtures for athletic lights are significantly taller.
Certainly.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess the picture on the cover of the packet that we received, I guess I'm looking for the residential areas or crossing. I'm not sure what that street is. I guess just to the north. I guess those 8 to 10 homes would probably be the closest.
I think that's Burnt Knob Road.
Okay. Burnt Knob Road, I guess.
Oh, yes, you're
Those would
correct.
be the
It's Burnt
closest
Knob.
residential there. So.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and as Mr. Tips indicated, the fields are oriented towards the south
Right.
Lawn Road, the furthest away from the residential area.
And the actual poles of the lights would be at the diamond area of each field, is what it appeared in the design.
Yeah, on the site plan, it's small because the area is so large, and to show the light fixture to scale is like a dot, basically, on the site plan.
Yeah.
So what I tried to do was put black circles on the site plan that's on the screen for the board members. And if they want to show that to the public as well, that's fine. But that's the location of those fixtures.
Where those
Black circles are.
black circles are.
Well, another question. Are you through? Like with Central Park, have we had any, was there any pushback from folks in those residential areas there with lighting? When that was proposed, or, of course you weren't here, but maybe Nate, maybe that's a question that he can answer, I don't know.
Pushback from the neighbors at Siegel, is that what you're asking? Yeah, I think I'd have to direct that question to the parks.
Because the other ones, obviously the tennis center is next to the golf course, and there's really not any residential there to speak of, and I think the other at Sportscom was next to the, well, there would be some other residential areas there too, but primarily the airport was there, so it didn't really factor in maybe.
We have had minimal at Siegel Park. This area where Blackman Park is to be located, I think would be significantly less populated with residential area and not near as close. Okay. Those lights are closer to residential areas. These are further away and more towards the highway.
Thank you.
Or if you had an issue, just out of curiosity, and not that we're talking about Siegel, but do you have tools you can use to help mitigate the light? Is it redirecting different type of fixture?
They're pretty set once they get up, and they're LED light. I'm not a photometric scientist, but I think where the foot candle ends off at our property line, I think that will be sufficient. We will have the ability to turn them on, off, and then possibly dim them too. So I don't anticipate any issues with this location.
Okay. Any further questions or anything else you'd like to add to the application for us?
Thank you for your consideration.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll conduct a public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you'd come forward. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for any further discussion or a motion.
Well, I guess I'll just continue this a little bit. It seems like this is given an obvious issue here. Anytime you're going to build a park that's got sporting fields like baseball and soccer, softball, where the lighting has to be a certain height, is there something we can do to incorporate this into the zoning as far as avoiding this type of situation, or is this just the way it needs to be, given every time you come up with a particular development, you may have people that have issues with it?
I can take your comments back to the planning director and staff. I think at a staff level, we recognize that this is something that it was an oversight in the ordinance and should be addressed. So we'll take it back and see what we can do about making some text changes.
Okay.
Is your question, I'm curious, is your question directed that it shouldn't have to come before the BZA, or is your question directed that the light shouldn't be next to a residential neighborhood?
I think my question is, it's obvious that when you build a field, the lights are going to be
Correct.
Higher.
Right.
So I don't see, if we know that, why can't we incorporate it to where
I'm with you.
that issue we avoid
I'm with you.
bringing back to BZA?
Yeah.
If it's in our codes
Right.
appropriately, this is a non-issue.
And at the planning, it can be developed, at the developmental level, it can be addressed rather
Yeah.
than at this.
That's all I'm after.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
If there's any other questions, I make a motion that we approve.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That application has been approved. Thank you. Next, we'll move to variance and special use permits. Application Z18016 by Joe Hargis, representing EchoSite and Alcorn Properties. They're requesting a special use permit for a wireless telecommunication tower and a variance of 105 feet from the zoning ordinance, requiring a maximum of 75 feet height to allow a 180-foot monopole. This property located on Innsbrook Boulevard, which is a vacant lot behind the Kroger Shopping Center. If you'd review that for us, Ms. Rush.
Yes, of course. As indicated in the description, this is a request for a use permit and a variance for a cell tower telecommunications facility to be located at the flag-shaped lot located behind the Kroger Shopping Center on the corner of Innsbrook and South Church Street. This particular property, just to provide background, was before the board about a year ago for a recreational vehicle storage facility, which has not been constructed. They have completed the site plan approval. So this particular facility would be located within the internal portion of that facility once it's developed. This actually may come forward first. The facility is proposing to construct a solid fencing around the enclosure of the equipment, as well as landscaping that exterior of the fence to minimize any impacts or views of looking onto the equipment area. As indicated for the variance, they are asking for a 105-foot variance to accommodate a monopole of 180 feet. This particular structure would allow for 3 additional cell tower or cellular providers. So I think there would be for a total of 4. The applicant, Mr. Patton Hahn, is here on behalf of Mr. Hargis, who is ill, and he could probably, he would be able to respond to any additional questions about this particular facility. One last thing to note, we did have a neighborhood community meeting to present this information to the neighbors located in that vicinity. We had 3 people attend, and so their comments were taken into consideration. One person was opposed, and the other 2 didn't have any, they were neutral. They didn't have any issues with it. If you have any other questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff at this point?
Is there a is a fall plan? Yes. And I didn't see it in the, I may have overlooked it. I just had that thought to ask about where we would be if there was an.
I believe it's set to fall within a 30-feet area.
Okay.
Here it is. Did you have it, Marina?
Yes, I have the letter. I
Yes.
recognize that.
What was your name, sir? Let's get
Yeah, sorry. My name is Patton Hahn. I'm an
Okay.
attorney at Baker Donaldson in Birmingham. Mr. Hargis has an illness right now.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add to the application, or is there any questions for Mr. Hahn?
Happy to answer any questions.
You're none, I guess I'm going to let you off easy. Thank you. If something comes up,
Thank
we'll
you.
reach back out to you. This time we'll conduct a public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you'd come forward. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for further discussion or a motion.
If there's no further questions, I move to approve the application.
Second.
So we have a special use permit and then a variance for the height. Do those need to be separate?
Separate, yes. Sorry, apologize. Separate
apologize.
motions, please.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the special use permit.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the special use permit. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that portion has passed. And next, the variance of 105 feet.
Make a motion, we approve the height variance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for the variance. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That portion is passed as well. Thank you for your time. Our next application is a special use permit. It's application Z18017 by Olivia Fuentes, requesting a special use permit to construct a 320 square foot accessory apartment above a 1-car garage, and this is for property located at 2406 Willow Drive. If you'd review that for us.
Yes, thank you. The property owner is proposing to construct an accessory apartment above a single-car garage. The accessory apartment would be 320 square feet. It's basically a studio with a kitchen, a full bath, and the sleeping living areas combined. This would be occupied by a family member, and the building elevations were included in the report that showed what the design was, which is very compatible to what the neighborhood is. Accessory apartments do have standards in our zoning ordinance. They do limit that it can only be used for a family member. It is a limit of 700 square feet in size maximum, and that it can be attached or detached to the principal structure, but it would need to still comply with those standards. The applicant is aware of these requirements and agrees to abide by those. And Ms. Fuentes is here today if you have any questions of her as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this point? Typically, there's a document about rental. I assume that's part of this one.
Yes, I provided that to Ms. Fuentes today.
Okay.
Approval would be conditioned on them returning that document to us, that is a limitation on the use of the property. That document has been provided to the applicant.
Is that part of the ordinance, or is that just part of what we've historically, the BZA's historically done?
It's part of the
And
ordinance.
It's part of
Part of the ordinance now, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
And it's also a condition of approval on the
Okay,
special use
okay.
permit recommended.
all right. Any further?
There was a discrepancy. When I measured the site plan, it measured 408 square feet, and the request was for 320 square feet. So if the board wishes clarification of that, you may, I would defer that then to the owner who's here.
Okay. Are there ratios from the accessory apartment? Can I be such a percentage of the main structure, or am I getting confused? And, I mean, does that
No, there's no,
20, 80, 88 feet make a difference? And
it's just
There's a maximum.
maximum of 700 square feet.
okay,
So this is either way, it's well within that.
okay,
The allowable.
okay. All right. Thank you. Any further questions? All right. Anything the applicant would like to add? If you do we have any questions for the applicant?
Due to the,
Ms. Would you mind coming to the podium for us? Thank you.
due to the discrepancy that Ms. Rush noted, would you like to modify your application to 408 square feet? Or is that, could you clarify that amount for us before we make?
I had done the calculations with, I think it was 14 by 20. And I had done those calculations at 320, and if that is incorrect, I would be willing to change that, yes.
Is that appropriate to modify that application, or for us to approve a higher amount than the applied?
I think if you wish, you could approve the higher amount. That would still provide a safety buffer then, and still be well under the maximum of the standard. So that may be the safest way to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll conduct a public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you'd come forward and give us any comments you may have. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for any further discussions or a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve, kind of adding the comment or stipulation at the 408 square foot, as Ms. Rush pointed out in her comments.
Does that also include the condition of the
Yes.
restriction on use of land documentation? I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That application has been approved. All right, next is application Z18018 by Mike Duggar, requesting a special use permit to construct a 520 square foot accessory apartment in the back of a 3-car detached garage. And this is for property located at 842 River Rock Boulevard. Ms. Rush, if you'd review that for us.
Yes, the property owner, Mr. Duggar, wishes to construct a 520 square foot accessory apartment located behind a new 3-car garage that's currently under construction. This would be located at 842 River Rock Boulevard. The unit would contain a full bath, sleeping and living area, and a cooking area. The apartment would be occupied by the owner's adult son and would not be used for a rental. As in the previous application, the 520 square foot accessory apartment is well under the standard of 700 square feet and would be in compliance. It meets all the setbacks and the requirement for having a family member only be the one to reside in it. The owner is here today and can answer any questions. He's also been provided the information about recording the restriction on the use of land, and the staff recommends that condition of approval be required if the board wishes to support this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff at this point? All right, Mr. Duggar, anything you'd like to add to the application?
If you don't mind, I just want to say we've taken great care to make sure this building matches the neighborhood and flows seamlessly with our property. Our contractors, excuse me, I'm fighting a head cold. Our contractors match the roof shingles perfectly. The siding will be the same as our house. And since it's a one level from the road, it'll look like a 3-car garage. The apartment is in the back, and my son's door will open up into our backyard. You'll never see it. It'll look just like our neighbors across the street. It'll look just like a 3-car garage. So we like our neighborhood. It's a nice single-family neighborhood, and we want to, keep it looking, keep the aesthetics right. So, but I don't think there'll be any problem with that. It's, I think somebody passing our house will never know the difference that there's even an apartment back there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Snuck off for Mr. Duggar. All right, thank you. At this time, we'll conduct a public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you'd come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and open the floor for any further discussion or a motion. I see in some of the pictures, I guess the building's under construction. There's not anything with side setbacks. It's, I guess, one of these site plans show maybe a 5-foot side setback, all that part's
Yeah, it's fine.
kosher.
It complies with the 5-foot side
Okay.
setback.
Anybody have any other questions?
I do not, no. I'll make a motion we approve, subject to all staff comments and conditions.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. That application's been approved. Next, we'll move to application Z18019 by Jake Lloyd of Mid-America Distributor and John Corbett requesting a special use permit to operate a temporary outdoor vending for fireworks sales located at 4442 Veterans Parkway. If you'd review that for us.
Yes, the request is to operate a temporary fireworks sales tent located at the Kroger Shopping Center at 4442 Veterans Parkway. This is a new location for the city of Murfreesboro. It is zoned highway commercial, CH. The tent will be approximately 40 feet by 60 feet in length, and it would be situated along the southern property line that is closest to Veterans Parkway. This is approximately 270 feet from a fueling station on the property, which exceeds the minimum distance as required by the zoning ordinance, which is 250 feet. It's approximately 260 feet from the closest alcohol sales, which also exceeds the minimum standard of 200 feet, and is less than 500 feet to the closest fire hydrant. The applicant intends to provide a portable restroom on the premises for customers and will be open from June 28th through July 5th between the hours of 8 to 10, and on July 3rd and 4th would extend those to 7 in the morning to midnight. These are all consistent with the fireworks requirements that are in our zoning ordinance. If the board does support the application, staff recommends 7 conditions of approval be placed on this use permit. If this use is allowed and they have a successful season with no issue or violations, the ordinance allows them to continue at the site without having to come back to the board for a public hearing. It could be approved for a special use permit in subsequent years administratively. And the applicant is aware of that as he operates other facilities in the city. That concludes my presentation. He's here if you have any questions.
I have one. It says approximately 260 feet from the closest alcohol sales, or is that alcohol sales for on-site consumption?
For on-site consumption.
Okay, because I was thinking, well, it's in Kroger,
I think I
and they
left
do
off
sell
that
alcohol. So I was wanting to know. So.
It's the on-site consumption part that could pose the problem.
Okay.
Still go
No
out
other
the
question.
We are careful with that.
As a whole, I think it seems like the firework vendors have, I I guess their behavior and have taken care of the sites, and it's been quiet. I guess that's continued. It's been quiet, I guess, since the administrative level approval of these repeats.
Yeah, from what I've heard, this is my second year of doing these. We have not had any issues for at least 3 years. I think prior to that, there may have been some issues with some incorrect sales, some of the bigger fireworks that were not allowed, and those corrections were made, and there hasn't been any issues at all that have come up, no complaints. They do go through several inspections with fire department, codes department, planning department, at least 3 inspections for this process. So there's a lot of eyes from the city on how they operate.
Great. Any further questions for staff? Mr. Lloyd, anything you'd like to add?
Not really. Good to see all of you.
Thanks. Okay, this time we'll hold a public hearing. Is there anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? If you come forward. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for any further discussion or motion.
There's no discussion. I'll move to approve the application.
Second. Sorry.
Including the conditions set by the staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There are none, so that location has been approved. Next, we'll move to application Z18020 by Mr. Jake Lloyd and Kroger, requesting a special use permit to operate temporary outdoor vending for fireworks sales, this time located at 2946 South Church Street. Ms. Rush, if you'd review that one for us.
Almost very similar. It is at also a Kroger shopping center. This one's at 2946 South Church Street. It does meet all the distance requirements. They have to be more than so many feet away from a fueling site, more than 200 feet away from on-site consumption of alcohol. They have to be within 500 feet of a fire hydrant. So this also meets all those requirements. But it's also very precise. If the applicant was to move the tent over one row in one way or the other, it may not meet all those requirements. So Mr. Lloyd has done a very good job with both of these applications with precisely locating where the tent can go to meet and be in compliance with our city standards. Likewise, staff is recommending, if the board supports the request, to require the conditions of approval that are recommended. And then this would also continue if there are no issues that come up during the year or during the selling season, that they would be able to come back next year as an administrative approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Anything you'd like to add on South Church Street location?
Have a little practice.
Right. Not his first rodeo. All right, this time we'll conduct a public hearing. Is anyone present wishing to speak for or against this application? You come forward. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and open the floor for further discussion or a motion.
Make a motion we approve subject to all staff comments and conditions.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. So that application has been approved as well. All right, the next item on our agenda, I assume that's withdrawn as it's marked on our...
Correct. The last item that was on the agenda was part of the legal notice, but the applicant has submitted a request to withdraw.
Okay.
This is no longer on the agenda.
Okay. The next item, staff reports and any other business.
No reports.
Nope.
Oh, wait, we do. Yes, we have a new planner that just started 2 days ago. Jana, I forget her last name. She's from Texas. I think originally she's from West Tennessee. And so out of school, she's been working in Texas, and now she's here with the city of Murfreesboro, and we are so glad to have her.
Great. All right. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn.
Thank you.